Yes, indeed. Welcome to another edition of the Sideline Junkies Thursday Night Throwdown. It's the big guy KG with the man that pays all the bills and keeps us nice and paid the boss BJ.
What's up?
What's going on, brother? How you feeling tonight?
Tired? Ready to go home. I've been on assignment for 2 weeks now. Well, not exactly 2 weeks, but it's been 2 weeks. So just tired, ready to get on this metal bird and tomorrow and head back home and see the family and everything, man.
Yeah, because I'm gonna tell you this now. You miss back here, man. So we all got to get together and do something, and get together and eat or something, man.
Yo, yeah, for sure, man. We gonna have to do something, man, because we look like we're gonna have a things go the way we think they're gonna go. We're gonna have an influx of good news. So
Yes, indeed. Let's hope and pray.
yeah.
Now, the first piece of news on our agenda today is a unanimous decision in MLB. Baseball is back starting April 7th. Major League Baseball and the MLB Players Association reached an agreement on a new collective bargaining agreement on Thursday, which is today, paving the way for the 2022 regular season to begin April 7th. The CBA was ratified by the owners with a unanimous vote of 30-0 on Thursday evening. If it is ratified, both sides must sign a memorandum of understanding. I ain't heard that in a long time.
Yeah, I know.
Officially, wow, that take you back. Officially bringing the 3-month lockout to a close. The mandatory spring training report date for all clubs is Sunday. Exhibition games will begin on March 17th or 18th. Man, you just don't understand how much bread was actually lost in this fight. But I'm glad they came together and got it together.
How long is the contract for?
How long is it for? Shit, that is a good. The new 5-year CBA includes
5 years.
increased minimum salaries, a new pre-arbitration bonus pool to reward the top young players in the game, a raise in competitive balance tax thresholds, the introduction of universal designated hitter.
Yep, the National League is adopting the DH, so that's going to be
Mm-hmm.
interesting to see. It's always been an American League thing,
Right.
so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. They got the playoff expanding to 12 teams. Limits to the number of times a player can be optioned to the minor leagues in one season. This is what I want to, as more information comes out, a draft lottery to discourage tanking. I really want to know how they're going to put that together to discourage tanking it. And if it is something that might work, will it be adopted in the other leagues? Because we've seen teams in the NFL and NBA recently tanking to get certain players. We've seen it, you know, we seen Indianapolis do it to get Peyton Manning.
Well, I don't.
Go ahead, because man, you've been butting heads the last couple shows.
I'm not gonna say that they tanked to get Peyton Manning. That if I'm not mistaken, that 97 year they went 3-13. They had Jim Harbaugh, but they had a rash of injuries, and those injuries depleted their team. They beat a good Miami team that year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they beat the shit out of Miami that year.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say that they tanked to get Peyton Manning, but it was a foregone conclusion. Because remember, it came down to a coin flip between San Diego, who had the Chargers at the time, and Indianapolis. And it was a coin flip. And the coin flip gave Indianapolis the number one pick. But it wasn't Peyton Manning they were looking at originally. It was Ryan Leaf, because Ryan Leaf was listed at 6'7", 6'8", strong arm quarterback, had pocket awareness. We know what he turned out to be. But Peyton Manning wasn't really the top guy until they really got to him and they really looked at what he could do. So that was almost Ryan Leaf as the number one.
Well, I would like to see the details of this rule, and they got a couple other rules that are kind of like um, can be implemented. It says it can includes a 45-day window for Major League Baseball to implement further rule changes, including a pitch clock, a ban on defensive shifts, larger bases. If that's something they do, it wouldn't take effect the 2023 season. So, um, good for baseball that they got, got things worked out and can get back to business and get back to the game a lot of people love. So, um, hopefully both sides got what they want, and we can move forward and not have to worry about this for another 5 years. It's going to be very interesting. I wish we had the information on when the NBA and NFL CBAs ended, because it's going to be very interesting to see how these CBAs are handled with the players doing what they're doing. Basically, James Harden their way out of two teams in the season, Ben Simmons themselves out of a team. I don't want to play here. I don't want to play here. It's going to be very interesting, coming up to see how that's going to be handled, because that has to be dealt with, unfortunately. And I know people probably think I'm a villain at this point, the way I talk about, you know, I'm for the players, but just not what's happening. I'm for the players having control and stuff, but it's gonna be very interesting to see, because it's a lot of insider information going on around these parts. So it's an inside joke if you looked at the last show.
If you haven't, go back and check that out.
Yeah, for
And the
sure.
Midnight Rider chime in and he said they're trying to speed up the game. The thing is,
Leave it
baseball has
alone.
always been a slow, dragging game during the season. It's exciting and it's fast paced. Opening day, right before the All-Star break, after the All-Star break, and the whole playoffs. I understand trying to speed the game up, but I mean
Leave
sometimes
it alone.
it's worked this long.
It's two different games. If you go watch a baseball game in person versus watching it on TV, it's two different games. I think more. I don't want to speak for baseball enthusiasts because I'm not that. I think that baseball enthusiasts can sit at a game and enjoy that pace, enjoy it live. They can call a game in their head, you know, kind of like we can dissect football. I can watch football with no commentate or anything and just, kind of work it out in my head. Then you have, more of a casual fan with baseball like myself. I can enjoy watching on TV, having some good announcers break down what's going on, what's the strategy, why they're doing this, why they're trying to match up with certain pitchers with certain hitters and stuff. I enjoy listening to that. So leave it alone. Bigger bases. Just like at this point, just make one big base, and if you touch first, you automatically get the second and third. I mean, this is like uh Midnight Rider said it's almost 4 minutes between pitches at times. Yeah, it do get kind of slow.
But now don't blame the pitchers for that. If you think back, Nomar Garcia Parra, he take a cold strike. He got to back off. He got to get his gloves right. Got to adjust his
You gotta
jock.
do
Got to
all of that.
shake. Nomar Garcia Parra was like the slowest hitter. Like I hated watching that dude bat. And I'm like, dog, please hurry up. But you got batters that step out of the batter's box, got to adjust themselves, got to tighten up their gloves,
Then the
do this,
pitcher
do
got to
that.
get back ready and get their
Mm-hmm.
glove together. And yeah, it would be interesting to see how that would affect hitting, offense, defense. Just that, because it's like you got time to get yourself together, but now if you got a little bit of pressure behind you and you have to get this pitch off and you have 45 seconds, whatever it's going to be, it's going definitely going to speed up the game. Because what is a baseball game? 3 hours?
3.5.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely going to be Definitely gonna be interesting.
Now, see, this is right here. Freddie Freeman. In a perfect world, I mean, the Nats would open up the pocketbook. His salary in 2016 was $12 million. I mean, the dude's worth money. He's 32 years old. How much money are you willing to spend? How much money are the Nationals willing to spend for Freddie Freeman? That's the question. But hell, I love first baseman in New York. Pinstripes look good on the kid.
Y'all ain't gonna win shit.
Oh, come on, baby. Don't hate. 27 times, baby. 2-7. Now go ahead and say, how many they won in your lifetime? You remember that time that I called you like at 2 a.m. when Aaron Boone hit that daggone home run? I don't think you talked to me for a week after that.
I probably didn't.
Because you was upset. You was watching the game.
Oh yeah, I was watching it.
My mama was mad because I was yelling so hard, but it's cool though.
Let's move on. What we got on next?
Oh, and the Midnight Rider says NBA expires 23-24 and NFL 2030. So, but NFL,
I think the NBA got it way worse than the NFL.
NFL it's not a players league, but
the NBA has some things to address. Really, because you can't keep, and it's unfair to some of the organizations like your Washingtons of the world where nobody wants to go play in Washington. Nobody wants to play in Portland. Nobody really wants to play in Utah. They drafted their team, right? I say that all the time. You live in these markets where nobody wants to go. You have to draft your team. Nobody really wants to go to Denver. Giannis made a promise to win where he got drafted and he did that. So, but it's several teams where the destination it's just not a great destination, and then you have players that hold these teams hostage, and if they do get rid of these players or cut them, they're stuck with the bill as far as their contracts. Now, in James Harden's situation, once a player declares they don't want to play for a team no more, your contract should be voidable. It shouldn't be on the team no more, because unless the team did something egregious to warrant you not wanting, you heard the Clippers, for instance, you heard the owner say a racial slur, and you're offended by it. If it's something really serious, then okay. But not just want to play anymore. Like, this ain't working out. I don't want to play. All right, you forfeit that money, forfeit that max. And the team, it doesn't count against it, so they can just void it. Just like we was talking about Calvin Ridley yesterday. If the Falcons are able to void his contract, because he did breach. I'm pretty sure he breached his contract. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, that's right around the corner. The NBA got some issues they're going to have to take care of. The NFL is they have some of the some similar issues, but not as bad as the NBA does.
But the NFL doesn't have. The NFL is not as much of a player league as the NBA. The players in the NBA control a lot of what goes on, but they also have Adam Silver is a great commissioner, and he learned from one of the best in all the four sports in David Stern. So Adam Silver, I love him, and I wish Roger Goodell would have learned something from Paul Tagliabue, because the working relationship Paul Tagliabue had with Gene Upshaw, we didn't have a stoppage of play during the 25 years those guys worked together. We didn't have it, And I agree with you, Midnight Rider. You can't keep paying bums. You can't.
You're not.
BJ is pro owner. My goodness, yeah, well, I wouldn't say pro owner, but he makes a good point though.
I see it from both sides. The players should have a choice of where they want to go, because in the players' defense, you have some of these franchises that have no interest in winning, right? And if a franchise is proving that to you, then fine. Go somewhere. Nobody wants to. This isn't the 80s and the 70s. the '90s, NBA no more, where you drafted to a team and you basically stuck in that team until your contract is done. It's not that anymore. So yes, like the big guy KG always says, it's like you got to go by today. You can't go by yesteryear as far as what the rules are. Okay, fine, I get that. But then you have Washington and you have Bradley Beal, which, in my opinion, he's been holding his team hostage for the last 3 years. And now reports are coming out is that he wants to go play in Philadelphia. How true they are, I don't know. We can't confirm the source. But if he does walk, that leaves Washington with nothing, and they drafted this kid. And instead of him being truthful and saying, "Hey, I don't want to play here anymore," he don't have to say it in public. He could have said it to Tommy Shepard behind closed doors. Now you leave here with nothing because he's going to make the most money here signing his max deal. It'd be an extra 60 million versus and I can see him just walking and leaving that 60 million on the table and not giving not Washington not getting anything. So that's a whole nother podcast. We already 16 minutes in. Let's stick to what we got to talk about. So what's next on the agenda?
Well, this will be the meat and potatoes of the show. We had blockbuster trades in the NFL today. Well, yesterday and today. I had to sleep on the first one. The first one, Carson Wentz coming from the Colts to the Washington Commanders. For the Colts will receive a third round pick in 22 and 23. The third round and 23 can become a second round selection if Wentz plays 70% of Washington snaps. Along with Wentz came a second round pick in 22. And we also got a seventh round pick here in Washington. But here's the downfall to that. Carson Wentz is due $28 million, which includes a $5 million roster bonus, which is due next week. And Washington is responsible for all of that money this season.
I think that I don't think he's going to get that.
What you mean, that roster bonus?
I think that they're going to restructure that.
But he's going to get it. It just may not be all of the $5 million. But here's the problem. Washington had $33 million in cap space to sign possibly a Bobby Wagner, possibly a Honey Badger, but they had this money. Now that money is all tied up because $28 million of that is going to Carson Wentz this season.
Now, if Washington made this trade, I thought that the picks were a little too high. After you digest it a little bit for Carson Wentz, somebody that's proved, like, anytime you have to have a clause that, hey, this could be a second round pick if he plays 70%. I think the third round picks were a little high, especially when Khalil Mack just went for a second and a six. I don't think Carson Wentz is worth that much. But when you're a team desperate for a quarterback, and I think the Commanders' Super Bowl odds actually went down after the trade. But here's the thing, and it's something that Commander fans shouldn't be worried about, because if this guy can play, before he got hurt in Philly, the Super Bowl season, he was playing MVP numbers. Everybody. Look, I understand the jokes and the memes; they're funny, but if you look at it from a football side, and you're a destination nobody wants to come to. Russell Wilson invoked his no trade clause not to come here. So it's something you have to think about. You kind of gotta get what you can get. No restructure, keeping it around, moving in a year. Yeah, I mean, they should restructure him. I think if they made the trade without talking to his agent to restructure, I think that's just one of them things you talk of is something only Washington can do. But yeah, if you can get Carson Wentz to play at he didn't play bad last year, didn't play great. But if you could get him, back on track, and then, like the Midnight Rider say, at 11, now you can go get a dynamic playmaker. Now you might have something. but it's a gamble. It's a gamble. We know what Carson Wentz can do if he's healthy. But we also know he can't stay healthy. That's one of his big issues. So, but this is what happens when you're a desperate team nobody wants to come to. Like, Big Guy KG said Bobby Wagner and the Honey Badger, they don't want to come here.
Not at all. Professor Lucky even said that. He said, man, we're not getting them.
Yeah, they who wants to that, and I was saying that the other day, who wants to come here? If you got this dark cloud over the organization, that you already had a cloud over the organization because you're not winning. Now you got another cloud rolling because you got one of the worst stadium experiences in the league, one of the worst stadiums in the league. You got that cloud. Then you got the whole debacle with the Sean Taylor ceremony last year, and right before that, it seemed like it was a cover up for the sexual allegations that was happening here. It's like a total shit show. So if you're a player, why do you want to come answer questions about that? Now, if something else pop off, especially if you're Russell Wilson and you're the leader of the team, you got to answer questions on that. You got to speak on that. Nobody wants to speak. Nobody wants to deal with all that. So Washington, I think they paid a little bit too much for Wentz, but in their situation, it's probably the price they had to pay because I think their package for Russell Wilson was way better than what Denver sent. He just didn't want to play here.
Exactly. Now, I understand what the Midnight Rider is saying. This is why they had to trade for Wentz. I get that. But the numbers did not work out. The numbers for Russell Wilson didn't work out. I was like, okay, why trade for Russell Wilson? He just signed a huge contract. Huge. Or as Mr. Tony used to say, huge contract. But Carson Wentz, his base salary this year is $20,001, which I think is kind of funny. His roster bonus is $6,294,118 for a total of $28,294,119 with a dead cap number of $15 million. But then on top of that, if he stays on the roster next year, he gets a base salary of $20 million with a $6 million roster bonus. 2024, $21 million with another $6 million roster bonus. He is going to count 26 and 27 million against the cap the next 2 years. That's a lot of money to play for a quarterback who last season led Indianapolis to a 9-8 record. And granted, he started and played 17 straight games. Completed 62.4% of his passes, 3,563 yards for an average of 6.9 per pass, 27 touchdowns, over 7 interceptions with a 94.6 rating. Yeah, that's pretty much what we had in Heineke. I mean, damn near. Let me pull up Heineke stats. What's going on, Keefe from the block, brother? Hope everything good with you and the fam, man. We trying to break down this Wentz trade right now, and it don't look too good. But let me pull up Taylor Heineke and see what we working with.
While you pulling up Taylor Heineke, I don't think Carson Wentz is going to get I think he's going to get restructured because, like, why put yourself in cap purgatory with one trade and you need a couple other things? You still got other players that you need to re-sign. So I just if they traded for him and they didn't work out something with that agent before, like, hey, he needs to be restructured. Maybe we can give him more money up front or whatever. It's just going to be like head scratching. Like it's head scratching now because I know with this team anything's possible.
Let me say this: you got Taylor Heineke last year, 2021. He played 16 games, started 15, completed 65% of his passes, 3,416 yards, average of 6.9 per pass, 20 touchdowns, over 15 interceptions, rating of 85.9. Now, he was sacked 38 times. But didn't we just trade for the same quarterback. Just basically Carson Wentz's career is built off of that 2016 season. That's what it's built off of. And really and truly, it was Nick Foles that took them the distance.
He did. Yes, he did. But up until that point, he was an MVP frontrunner.
Yeah, until he tore his ACL.
So what? I don't agree with what you said. They're not the same quarterback. Wentz has a stronger arm, and I think he can make more plays.
Okay, hold on. Physically, no, they're not the same quarterback. Statistically, they're the same quarterback. Statistically, we're looking at the same thing: 3,500 yards, 6.9, and I feel. Where's my pen at? Where's my daggone pen? I feel like I just read off the exact same daggone stats. Only thing different is the QBR. That's it. And I mean, granted, Heineke was essentially a rookie the last year. This is basically his rookie year, the first time he got to start. Now,
and I agree with you. One thing you got to take into consideration is that T.Y. Hilton missed a lot of games. I'm trying to see how many games he played last year.
He missed most of the season. He had a spinal cord injury.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. He only had 23 receptions. So, imagine if he had T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, and he did have a what's the cat that they're running back? Of course, I'm not in football most. I can't remember their running back.
I know who you're talking about.
Shit, he had a hell of a season.
He did.
And I agree with the Midnight Rider. He has zero dead money the next 2 years. That's why you don't restructure. Keith says, I think Washington gave up too much. I agree with that, and so do you.
Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah. Carson Wentz is way better than Taylor Heineke, and you going from 1 year. I can only go from what's given to me. I'm talking about Taylor Heineke versus Carson Wentz last season. I'm going from what's given to me.
So So Jonathan Taylor, 1,800 yards rushing, 18 TDs, 40 receptions, 360 yards off of that. So Jonathan Taylor was working last year in the backfield.
Mm-hmm. They were talking about him possibly eclipsing 2,000 last year. Yeah. They thought he was going to hit 2,000.
So if you got a back running like that on 332 attempts, you're not going to really get too much passing. Like I said, if he has T.Y. Hilton, I think his numbers go up. T.Y. Hilton's a 1,000-yard receiver on accident.
True. That is true.
So I think I understand what you're saying about the stats, but I think Wentz's ceiling is way better because if Wentz comes in here, we can't say Taylor Heineke has had an MVP type season. We can't. He doesn't have that. You're hoping, just like the Wizards have had to do, just like what they're doing with Porzingis. We hope we can get the unicorn back. We hope he can stay healthy. This is what we have to do as a franchise because nobody wants to come here and play. And that's where the Commanders are now. We got to roll the dice, and we can hope that this guy can come in. Like I said, mobile, no, he's not better than Heineke. Arm and head-wise, as far as seeing the defense and stuff, it's Wentz. Now, can Wentz come in here, stay healthy on the Commanders field? Because we know how that field is. Okay? Can he stay healthy? And then can you get Curtis Samuel back healthy? Can you get, now can you really see what you can get out of Terry McLaurin? Because he hasn't had a quarterback his entire time here.
That's true.
His entire time here. He looks like he could be an elite receiver, but he just hasn't had the quarterback to, give him a consistent ball.
And he led the league last year in 50-50 balls from a rookie, an essential rookie quarterback.
So, it's nothing against Taylor Heineke. If you go back to the shows and listen to it, I love him. Unfortunately for him, it's just every time he gets a chance to the rug gets pulled out from underneath him. He hasn't really had a chance to, show it and go. And, if you start him again this year, who knows? But right, Washington wants to win now. It's understandable, but um, we're just talking about if Wentz can stay healthy, and that's the big thing. If Wentz can stay healthy, if Wentz can stay healthy, we're talking about
How
maybe
many wins?
Washington. If he can stay healthy,
If he can stay healthy with the shit show that's down in Dallas, the shaky ground that's up in Philadelphia, and the outhouse that's up in New Jersey.
I say 11.
I was thinking 10 to 11, but then I'm like, yeah, he's going to wind up giving way to Taylor Heineke. And Taylor Heineke, I'm not saying he can't do it, because he can do it. I believe he can, but he may get another chance. I hope it's not early in the season, but he may take over this team by week 15.
Well, I mean, I hope not. I mean, because you didn't get to see what Fitzpatrick could do because he got hurt the first game.
Yeah, and I'm not bringing him back, not for 10 million. We don't have enough money to bring Fitzpatrick
They're
back.
talking about Buffalo bringing him back, so
For what?
Because they're gonna need a backup quarterback once whoever go get Trubisky. You know, Trubisky and Mariota seem like they're hot doo doo right now. Spoken hot doo doo. So the season we're talking about is the 17 season. Wentz went 11-2, 60%, 3,200 yards, 33 TDs, 7 interceptions. He was the MVP front runner, and then he got hurt.
But here's the thing. He hasn't touched that type of play. Now, he was 11-2 as a starter then. The year before that, his rookie year, he was 7-9. Then the year after that, 5-6, 9-7, 3-8-1, and then last year 9-8.
Okay, and then all his best season, 7 interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, he makes
the next season 7 interceptions. 7 interceptions.
He makes great decisions.
That's what I'm saying. That's going to be. You haven't had a quarterback here, a decision making, powerful arm quarterback here in a minute. Who?
So Kirk wasn't a great decision maker.
No. I'm talking about in the last 5 years.
Well, Kirk didn't lead. It's been less than 5 years.
Has
How long has Kirk been gone? He's only been gone 4.
Okay, last 4 years.
Okay,
last 4 years.
Yeah, now I agree with that. But here's my thing. You said something earlier. Why do we got to keep shaking the dice in Washington, hoping that this guy can come in, hoping this guy can do it? We got to shake the dice, see if this guy can do it. I've been shaking the dice on quarterbacks since 1994. I shook the dice on Heath Schuler, who couldn't call the plays in the huddle, so Brian Mitchell had to call the plays. I shook the dice on Gus Frerotte, who actually led us to a winning record, but we didn't make the playoffs. I shook the dice on Rich Gannon, John Freeze, Brad Johnson, who led us to the playoffs. I shook the dice on Tony Banks, Jason Campbell. I shook the dice on all these people. I shook the dice on RG3, and that was my quarterback for the longest because I believed in him. I can't keep shaking the dice on guys hoping that they're going to be the franchise quarterback that we need them to be.
Well, we going because we got to talk about the next trade, but one, you've had really bad leadership front office the last 20 years. If you go back and look at the drafts this team's had and who they missed on, that's why you got to keep rolling the dice. And now, let's just go over the last season. Everything I named. Why do you want to come here if you're a player? Yeah, but I mean, you can go get that and go win.
Yeah.
It's teams
because salaries are booming.
It's teams out here that everybody's running to restructure right now that is going to have cap space that you could actually win. Man, maybe sip a margarita on the beach. You don't have to be in Washington with bad weather, a stadium falling apart. Why? Why do I want to do this? And like I said, insider information. Who's not saying that? Players are like, "Hey, man, don't come here." What if somebody's close with Landon Collins that was thinking about coming here and they talked to him like, man, they treated me like dirt, man. Nah, don't go there. I'm just saying, it's just
Let me just to end this part of the segment and move on to the next trade. Landon Collins' biggest mistake was coming here, signing here, thinking he was going to wear 21. After that, everything else went downhill. Once he thought he was going to wear 21 and that was going to be okay, especially with this fan base, knowing what 21 means to the fan base, everything was downhill after that. It just
yeah.
seemed like it never got off the ground. Now, I wanted him here. I wanted him here badly. But I didn't think he would play like this. I thought, hey, he's going to be what we need.
It's not his fault.
No, it's not. He played out of position most of the time here.
And
That's coaching.
What week did they realize, hey, this guy might be playing out of position?
Was it 8?
7 or 8?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm talking about. It's just like it from y'all scouting this dude, saying like, yeah, we gonna sign this guy. So you telling me from all y'all signing him, y'all didn't know that he was a box safety
and not a free safety to play over the top.
So that's what I'm saying. That's Washington's fault. You spend that type of money on a guy, and you don't understand how to use him. That's not Landon Collins' fault. Yeah, he got burnt, but he's not that type of safety. He's a safety where he can hover over right behind the linebackers.
He's a drop down safety.
Blitz. Like what's the boy name that can't get an interception? Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
Blitz, you throw him around, but then you need a high safety that can cover sideline to sideline.
That's where Bobby McCain comes in.
And that because if Landon Collins, we're going way off into the rabbit hole. If Landon Collins is down in the box, you need somebody that could cover sideline to sideline like 21 could, right? So, but to bring him in for the amount of money they did and expect what they expected and then not make that change. Every week we did this podcast, we was like, why is this guy in the secondary where he is? Why do we have to say that? In week 7, somebody said, hey, it might be a good idea. I heard this podcast and they said, let's put him in the box. Let's try that. Like the team, the team, they got some issues. Let's move on.
Well, blockbuster trade number 2 in the last 2 days.
And this one pissed me off, man.
The Chicago Bears, I think the trade is final. It won't be official till next week. But 6-time Pro Bowl defensive end Khalil Mack will be going to the Los Angeles Chargers. Reported by ESPN's Adam Schefter. The Chargers are expected to send a 2022 second-round draft pick and a 2023 sixth-rounder, a second and a sixth, to the Bears in return for 31-year-old Mack. The deal marks the first major move for new Bears general manager Ryan Poles, who was hired in January. Also reunites Mack with the Defensive Player of the Year in 2016 with Chargers coach Brandon Staley. Staley was Mack's linebackers coach when the Bears acquired him from the Raiders in September 2018. Here's my thing, and I'm going to let you have this. Khalil Mack, at one point in time, was considered one of the most feared defenders in the league. This man is being traded back and forth like this is jail, and they trade him for nothing. The Raiders gave up on him and got nothing in return. The Bears just gave up on him and really got a second and a sixth. Like, this dude is at least worth a 1 and 2 twos. I mean, at the least. That's just at the least. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, I get what you're saying. It definitely raises some eyebrows when you see somebody like Khalil Mack getting traded like he is. But I mean, 6 sacks. He got 6 sacks last year, 9 the year before, 8.5. His first year in Chicago, 12.5. Um, so I mean, I haven't heard anything saying that, like he's a troublemaker or anything like that. Haven't heard anything. Um, just real quick, if you're a Buffalo fan though, this has to piss you off because this is the second time Mack has been traded, and you're a pass rusher away from maybe getting over that hump. And this is the second time Khalil Mack has been shipped off. Now the Chargers understand the assignment. The Chargers got to deal with Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and Derek Carr. Okay, we talked about that. I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast or we talked about it on one side. We talked so much, but you're talking about teams that the Chargers probably 70% of their offense is passing. The Raiders are probably in the 60s. The Broncos are now going to probably be in the 60s when you talk about the percentage of their offense is going to pass. Hey, we need to get to the damn quarterback. We need to get to the quarterback. Now you got Bosa on one side and Mack on the other side. Like, that's not even fair. Bosa's already a force to deal with. Now you can't even double team him because you got Mack on the other side. How it should be here in Washington. They haven't got it quite together yet, how to figure that out. But they should have the same setup with the guys they have. So, as a Buffalo fan, I'm just like, hello, y'all on vacation? Like, what the hell is going on? But the player has to want to come to the to the team. The team has to want them. So it is what it is. I think the Chargers think they got a shot, bro. I think they got a shot. I think the Chargers think they have a shot to get out of the West. With Herbert at quarterback and the receivers they got, I think they really. I just, like I told Delonte yesterday, Russell Wilson going to the Broncos, he couldn't get out of his own division in Seattle. He can't get out of his own division in Seattle. Who's in the Seahawks division? It's the
Arizona,
49ers.
the 49ers, and the Rams.
So you just left that.
You went from being tops to being the shit. They wasn't even the third best team this year. They were the fourth best.
They were the fourth best team
in that division.
They look like they're going to be the third best team there. Like, to Washington's credit, I would love to see what the Broncos Super Bowl favorites were after Super Bowl odds were after they traded for Russell Wilson. But it's just like, you went to that division to fight with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. Like, dude, you got your work cut out for you.
Now, I will say this about Justin Herbert. He take the pressure off of him this next season, because people, what always happens when you have a phenom at quarterback, and Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, those guys are phenoms. Lamar Jackson, phenom. Once you figure those guys out, you have to switch up what you do and do more that they're not ready for, because everybody's got you figured out. They got tape on you now. When they don't have tape on you, you're dominant. Once they get tape on you, you can still be good, but once they get tape on you, that's it. You have to come up with something different. You have to. And I think Herbert and Burrow are going to come out this year and they're going to sling it. I think the AFC West is going to turn into what the AFC North was about 3-4 years ago, where it's just like, it's a black and blue division where everybody just beat the hell out of everybody. They beat the hell out of each other, but then they go through and they all finish with winning records. It's going to be what the NFC East used to be. It's going to be the new black and blue division, but not because of running or defense. They're just going to beat you because they're complete teams over there. And I really like Denver. Denver is a good team. Russell Wilson helps out in Denver, but Justin Herbert, he got himself a baller on defense. Khalil Mack, he gonna make some noise.
Yep. Hey man, let's go to the last part of this show.
Last part. Um, Unfortunate incidents out in LA. Even Magic Johnson had to speak out on this to Laker Nation. People are sending death threats to one Russell Westbrook. His family. He said he didn't even want his kids to come to the game because people were calling him out of his name. And everybody went, "Oh, man up. They just calling you Westbrook because you can't hit the broadside of a barn and this, that, and the third." Still, you got to realize this man has young kids. He doesn't have kids like me, BJ. He has young kids. He doesn't have these older kids that, they know this is a part of the game. You have young kids and you're doing this. You kind of putting them in a bad predicament. Now, granted, Russell Westbrook has not played like himself this season. In my opinion, too much jump shooting because that's not his thing. Rebound, and Magic Johnson said, I expected him to rebound, go coast to coast, slam that thing home. Or I expected him to get the ball in the wing, put the ball on the floor, and go to the lane. Yeah, we seeing too much jump shooting from him. And, it's got a lot of fans upset, but I don't give a damn what the man does. It's nothing in this world that could upset you to the point, upset you in a sports game to the point that you threaten a man's life and his family. That's a punk move right there.
I agree, brother. I hope that they can track who sent them, the people that sent them, and jail time is involved because it's like, every show, or not every show, but I always defend the fan. Like, you have a right to feel the way you want to feel about your team. You have a right to express, your displeasure if your team isn't living up to its standards. Um, this is one of those championship or bust teams, and you have every right to, you know, boo and everything else. But when you start crossing that line, you're a terrorist now. You're a domestic terrorist, and you should be treated as such. And I don't care for Russell Westbrook at all, but death threats are way too far. Too far. I think that I think this season has been a experience like no other for Russell Westbrook. You know, everywhere he's been successful except here. And this is his dream destination. And as when you think of it as a human being, that I know that has to hurt. That has to sting a lot. That he hears the podcast and ESPN and Fox and everybody blaming him for what's going on, but that gives nobody a right to send him his family death threats at all. And the crazy thing is, like, the Lakers is that destination where everybody wants to go, and the fans, the broadcasters, the former players, that they hold that team to a higher standard. Like, the Lakers are not supposed to be losing, and if they are losing, if they are all for a season, then we gonna fix it and make some trades to get it back on track. That's how the Lakers have always been. Lakers might be mediocre for a couple years, but then that mediocre turns into championships, and that's what they're used to. It's like, Big Jim can tell you, you used to winning championships and seeing greatness. Like, we're not talking about you know, I can't even compare a team, but just like they're trying to compare Embiid and Harden to Shaq and Kobe.
No.
Yeah, it's just just like that's a different level of greatness that you guys ain't nowhere near achieving yet. Y'all got a long ways to go before we even talk about that. But it's just certain franchises, the Yankees, the Lakers, the Canadians, the Montreal Canadiens, in case you don't know who I'm talking about. Hendrick Motorsports. It's just like, these guys expect championships. Richard Childress Racing, I know I'm missing a couple of them. Um, NFL, San Francisco's,
The Patriots,
the Patriots now, um,
the Steelers.
the Steelers. Thank you. I'm drawing blanks. The Steelers, like these are historically good franchises. They might have an off season or two, but they don't have an off 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're not disappearing into the abyss for 20 years. They're too good of a franchise, so they're willing to take risks to be better and stuff. But back to what we were saying, yeah, they have to make examples out of people. They really do, like everything across the board, not just the death threats to Russell Westbrook, everything happening. False allegations. You have to start making examples out of people for this stuff to stop. So
I agree 100%. And you also have to realize when you cross that line and you threaten somebody's life, you threaten their family's lives, you open up a can of worms and you kind of open up the other side of that person, and they can't be responsible for what happens. So, I mean, hey, who am I? Just a podcaster. That's all. But chill with that. Just because teams lose and all of that, it ain't got nothing to do with you hooping and hollering and yelling and threatening people's lives. Be careful, because everybody ain't cool, calm, and collected. And if I'm not mistaken, Brody is connected. And when I say connected, you know what I mean. Be careful what you do. So, well, that's all our time. Last thing before we get out of here, which is kind of crazy to me. A young lady is suing Jerry Jones for allegedly being her biological father. Her mom couldn't say anything because she had to keep it under wraps because of confidentiality agreement. I don't know what this young lady expects to get. I don't know if she expects to tap into Jerry Jones's fortune, but allegedly Jerry got a baby mama. So we'll keep up with that because it's gonna be swept up under the rug. So I guess this is the only podcast that's going to keep up with it, just like the money that he paid the cheerleaders to keep quiet about what happened in the locker room. So we shall see. We shall see. But until next time, that's the boss BJ. I'm the big guy KG, and tonight we got it right. You see what that ticker said at the bottom of the screen. It say, wrap that shit up, B. We don't do no overtime. We are out of here. Hold on. I got to get us out of here. Up. Now, we are out of here.